Hi everyone and welcome to our series of SOLIDWORKS Model Mania made with Fusion 360. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to head up and select this plus button to create a new design. As we inspect the 2D drawing, notice that the model is symmetric. With this in mind, I prefer to create the half and mirror it afterwards. Let's begin by creating the side view. I'm going to hit C for circle and let's sketch on our XZ plane, selecting this plane. With the circle command active, let's place our center point at the origin. And notice on the drawing it says, unless otherwise specified, dimensions are in inches. So here, I prefer doing this in millimeter. With the dimension field highlighted in blue, I'm going to key in 70 for the first diameter. Let's move the dimension over here. Next, I'm going to hit O for offset and offset this circle by 7. Hitting enter. And let's move this dimension over here. Let me pan this to the right. Hitting L for line. Let's create a line tangent to our circle. So left click and I'm going to hold shift to enable inferred tangent constraint. Left click over here, move down, left click, and left click. With line command still active, let's create a line from the midpoint of this vertical line all the way to the intersection of this circle. Left click here, hitting escape. Next, I'm going to create 3 vertical lines here representing the whole. So hitting L once more, let me create 3 vertical lines. Next, let's make sure this line is perfectly vertical. So with this selected, right click, selecting vertical. Let's apply this to these other lines as well. So notice, these lines are now perfectly vertical. Next, hitting escape, let me turn these 3 lines as a construction line. So with this 3 selected, heading to sketch palette and selecting construction or hitting X on our keyboard. Moving forward, let me hit D for dimension. Let's dimension this vertical line at the middle, which will serve as our axis and our origin. Moving down, left click here, key in. Pitch, I'm going to name this right away as pitch parameter. Once more, it's pitch equal 100. Hitting escape. And let me move these lines. Hit D for dimension. Selecting this middle line and this right line, heading up, right click, and next I'm going to add a symmetry constraint between these 3 lines. So with symmetry, I'm going to select the first 2 outer lines and finally our symmetry line. Right click and select symmetry. Next, I'm going to hit D for dimension. Let's add a diameter dimension. So selecting our axis or symmetry line, selecting this line or this line, right click and select diameter dimension. The value to be 15, hitting enter. With dimension tool still active, let me zoom in. Let's dimension this vertical line and this construction line. Left click here to place our dimension, key in 7. Hitting enter. Next, let's make sure that this line is perfectly horizontal. I'm going to hit escape, select this line and our origin. I want them to be both coincident with each other, so right click, selecting coincident. Next, hit D, and let's have this line and this line have an angle of 15. So I'm going to create a parameter. I'm going to type angle equal to 15. Hitting enter and hitting escape. In addition, before we hit finish sketch, I want you to take note of the dimension or parameter ID of D1 70. Same with the 15 D4. And notice we named this dimension into angle and this one to be pitch. And because 15 is the second hole, let me rename this into hole 2 equal to 15. Moving this, and let's now select finish sketch. Let's now hit E for extrude, and selecting this half of the profile. For direction, let's have this symmetric, measurement to be whole length, and the length to be 70. Let's inspect, selecting OK. Next, let's trim the sides of this model. I'm going to hit L for line, and let's sketch on our XY plane. And before I create the sketch, I need a reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select P for project, and under selection filter, I prefer bodies, selecting this body and selecting OK. Let me turn off the visibility of this body. Hit L for line. Let's drop our first point at this corner. Left click. I'm going to create an arc. So left click and hold. Release and move to the other side. Double left click. Hitting escape, and let's apply constraints. I'm going to head up and select tangent, selecting this arc and this line, this arc and this vertical line. In addition, let's create the circle as well. Hit C. Let's drop this at the center point of this arc. And recall, we created a parameter named as hole 2. Hitting enter. Let's move this diameter over here. And finally, let's turn on the visibility of sketch 1. Hit P for project, and this time, selection filter to be specified entities. Selecting this vertical line, selecting OK because this hole needs to be coincident with this point. So selecting them both, right click and selecting coincident. Next, let me turn off the visibility of sketch 1. Turn on the visibility of bodies. Hit E for extrude, selecting this profile and this profile. Let's move our arrow up, making sure this is a cut operation. And I prefer the cut to be always be in respect to D1 and D2. So I'm going to type in D1. Recall it is our 70 millimeter diameter. I'm going to divide this by 2. I'm going to hit plus and recall the D1, which is 70, was offset by 7, which is named as D2. So notice whenever D1 and D2 updates, our extrusion will also update as well. So notice that relationship. Selecting OK. Notice on section AA, we have a feature connecting D1 and hole 2, which has a thickness of 14 millimeters. I'm going to head up to our surface and select offset. For the faces or bodies, I'm going to select this face and this face, move our arrow up and key in -7. Notice chain selection is enabled. Operation, new body, and selecting OK. And notice on our bodies, we now have a surface body. So take note of its difference from a solid body. And before I forget, let's include the hole here as well with Extrude 2. So with Extrude 2 selected, I'm going to right click and select Edit Feature. So Profile, 2 profiles selected. I'm going to hold Control and add this circular profile. Selecting OK. Let's apply the draft on the sides. So for now, I'm going to turn off the visibility of surface body 2. Let's change our tab into solid and head over to modify and select draft. For the type, it will be fixed plane. Let me first define the faces. So selecting this face. And for the pull direction, left click here, I'm going to select our XY plane. For the angle, I'm going to key in 7. So notice we have retained the 7 millimeter dimension here. Draft sides to be one side and select OK. Moving forward, let's remove the material on this face. Let me turn off body 1 and turn on our surface body. I'm going to select this face, right click and select Create Sketch. Next, I'm going to turn on the visibility of body 1. My intent here is to project this face onto the surface of our body 2. And to do that, I'm going to hit P for project. Under selection filters, specified entities, and I'm going to select this face. So notice it projected on our surface body. Selecting OK. Next, I'm going to hit O for offset and select this curve, moving the slider and keying in 7. And select OK. Let me turn off the visibility of body 1 and body 2. And I'm going to create a line extending from this endpoint going here. So notice it's perpendicular. Same with this one. Double left click. To terminate the chain of line, hitting escape. And finally, let's offset this circle. So hitting O once more, selecting this circle, and this one to be 7. Selecting OK. Let's now select Finish Sketch. Okay, let's now extrude these profiles. I'm going to hit E for extrude, selecting this profile, and this profile. Let me pull this up and turn on the visibility of body 1. And for the start profile, I'm going to select offset plane. Let's check for its offset. I'm just going to key in any number, let's say 20. So this means I have to go to a negative value. And this time, recall that half of this is D1 divided by 2. So I'm going to key in for offset negative D1, which is 70, divide that by 2. So notice here we have to go to a positive direction. And for extent, let's change this to object, and that object is our surface body. And once more, whenever D1 updates, our extrusion will also update as well. Operation cut and hit OK. Let me turn off the visibility of sketch 3. Moving forward, let's apply the drafts on these faces. Hitting S for shortcuts, and I'm going to search for DRA, which is our draft. For the faces, once more, the type is fixed plane. I'm going to select this target face, the cylinder's face, and this face. And for the pull direction, left click here, I'm going to select this face. The angle to be 7, and let's inspect. Looking nice, selecting OK. And finally, let's apply fillets, selecting F. I'm going to select this face, this face, this face, and this face. Let me key in 3. Inspecting, selecting OK. And let's add this edges as well. So double left click, fillet 1, hold control, and select this edge. Looking nice, selecting OK. And finally, let's mirror this body to the other side. I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing MI, selecting mirror. For the pattern type, it will be bodies, and that object is body 1. For the mirror plane, it will be our XY plane. Operation to be joined, and selecting OK. And finally, let's check if our model will update for future changes. Let's head over to Modify and head over to Change Parameters. Let me resize this. Expand our model parameters. Let's locate where we define the D1 and the pitch. So that would be under sketch 1. For configuration B, let's type in 10. And for its pitch, keying in 1 to 5. And for D1, it will be 60. So let's check if there's going to be an error. Selecting OK. And congratulations for completing SOLIDWORKS Model Mania 2002 in Fusion 360.